Hi, everybody, and welcome to Ed Randall's Talking Rams. We're about to embark on an ambitious video series that will pay tribute to those men and women, members of the Athletic Hall of Fame, who distinguished themselves on the field of play and brought honor to Fordham University. And for me, this is a wonderful opportunity because it's living proof that God has a sense of humor. We hope that you'll pass the word about this series to all your friends in the Fordham community and have them tune in because, after all, that's how we'll be compensating our guests at $10 a head. We launched this continuing series of conversations with Ken Charles. He graduated as the third all-time leading scorer in school history, and his 20-point average is second all-time. He's had single-season marks for points, field goals, and attempts, and was only the third player in history to join the exclusive 1,000-point club. As a senior, he averaged 24.3 points, fourth best all time, is a two-time team captain, and an All-American. He was inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame in 1980, the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame in 2011, and had his number 44 retired on February 23rd, 2019, and went on to play 5 seasons in the NBA. Before we begin, a note of appreciation. My guest has insisted over the years that when I speak directly to him, I refer to him as Your Excellency. However, for this one interview, he has graciously waived that requirement and will allow me to call him by his first name. Here then is Fordham College, Rose Hill 73, number 44 in our hearts, KC, Ken Charles, and a conversation between two of the greatest athletes to ever walk the Rose Hill campus. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for not standing up and leaving during the introduction. How old were you when Clifford Charles took the family from Trinidad to Brooklyn?
You've done your homework there, Mr. Randall. Yes, I was 6. I was 5 and my brother was 6. We came here in 1957.
And what was the reason for the move?
Well, my parents had moved here a year and a half earlier from the Caribbean, from Trinidad. So they came here to basically scout around the U.S., find us a place to live. They got settled, got jobs, and then they sent for their 2 sons, which was my brother and I. And we came here in 1957 to be an American, to get a better life for their children.
And what was it like for you without your parents during that intervening time?
Well, one thing about the Caribbean, there are always family members willing to step in. So we had a lot of that, a lot of discipline, a lot of relatives that took care of us for a year and a half.
And were there Charles family members that were already in Brooklyn before your parents came?
No, but just cousins of theirs, the Cordises and the Trumpets, but no last member named Charles were here yet.
So you come to America. You were enrolled in a high achievement summer program between 7th and 8th grades, and then you choose the Jesuits of Brooklyn Prep for high school. What went into your decision?
Well, since I didn't know any other schools, really, we got here, and my which is a family joke, but which is true. My mother hated the Catholics because she was never believed in confession. She never thought any man should be able to confess his sins to another man. So literally, I think my father sneaked us into a Catholic school, and he told about it when he came home that day. And my mother asked, "You put my children in a Catholic school?" And he said, "Yes." She said, "The education?" He said, "Yes, but the education there is apparently supposed to be pretty good." So that's how we got into a Catholic grade school, Our Lady of Victory. And I did okay in school, and I did pretty good, actually. So in between the 7th and 8th grade, a school by the name of Brooklyn Prep, Notion and Carroll's, now Medgar Evers College, had what they call a high achievement program. And what they did was they invited kids, the better students from Our Lady of Victory, Holy Rosary, St. Peter Clare, heavy Catholic school contingent in Bed-Stuy at the time of grade schools. So, and they put us all together in a high achievement program to prepare us for the CHSA exam. And I did well on that. And that's how I ended up in Brooklyn Prep. And that was the beginning.
And you go to Brooklyn Prep and you become all city on the basketball court. Tell us
Which is,
about the recruitment process when people began to take notice of Kenny Charles.
well, somewhere in the end of my junior year, I started getting a letter or two a month uh, from colleges, and but that really wasn't a big deal. Then in the early part of maybe January of my senior year, they just started coming in droves. And my parents and my father, especially, who had no inclination towards sports whatsoever, once asked me, why all these schools writing you? And I said to him, they want me to come to their school to play basketball.
Did your father not come to watch you play basketball?
In high school, never.
Really?
No. I'll tell you another story about that later on. So he literally said, for free, because I mentioned scholarships. He said, for free. I said, for free. And he said, for free. I said, yeah. He just shook his head in disbelief and just went into the room. He didn't have another discussion about it or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And early on in my high school career, my father actually came up to the school and take me off the team.
Really?
Yes. He had this habit where he'd go through our books, and this particular year they had the picture of this varsity team, and my picture was in the paper, and he saw the newspaper in our books. He went up on his own. I didn't know, and he took me off the team.
Really?
That's the same that he did that in the morning. In the afternoon, I came to practice, and Mike Murray, who's my high school coach, asked me what I was doing there. And he said, I said, aren't we practicing today? He said, yes, but you're not, because your father came up here to took you off the team. And I had longest bus ride home ever.
I bet.
So I get home. My father looked at me and said, I do not want you playing basketball. He didn't ask. No, there were no asking there in those days.
It's a statement, not a question.
That's right.
Yes.
What happened was Mike Murray, who was my high school coach, and John Sexton, who's famous NYU president now.
Sure.
He was a teacher at Brooklyn Prep. We're all three of us very good friends. He and Mike Murray literally came to my house when I was a sophomore in high school. Came to my house to discuss with my father the pros and cons of playing basketball. And so the trade-off was, because my father didn't care about anything, he just cared about college degrees and scholarships. So the trade-off was, if I kept my grades up, I could play. So by the time, which helped me, I was doing that anyway, but it just helped me in college because it was already part of my equation of getting through. But that was part of my high school perusal, just going through it and having to go through that. Yeah, it was interesting in the beginning. Yeah.
What a powerful incentive, though, to keep your marks up.
Yeah, because he was not into any sports whatsoever, none.
Like so many other immigrant parents.
Yeah, he could care less. So then after that, the scholarships started coming in, and I was down to 3 schools: Fordham, Columbia, and Marquette. Because, Brooklyn Prep, the snooty Jesuits only had one, but they gave me one basketball school, which was, I chose Marquette to pick. Certain schools, they wouldn't let recruit me. They wouldn't let St. John's recruit me. They wouldn't let any schools recruit me that didn't have high academic standings. So I was sort of locked in positively. So the day of the choices, I had 3 schools: Fordham, Columbia, and Marquette. The day I had to sign. I go into the room with my high school coach. We're going to sign it that day. I went into that room to go to Columbia. My high school coach looked at me and asked me, he said, what school do you think wants you the most? Oh, that was easy because Fordham recruited me hard, very hard. I said, oh, that's Fordham. He said, then why are you going anywhere else? And I didn't have a good answer for that, so that's why I ended up at Fordham, not Columbia. And Jack Rohan never let me forget it.
Really?
Jack Rohan, the old Columbia coach. Every time he saw me, he said, I still don't believe you went to Fordham. Every time he saw me, he would say, I still don't believe you went to Fordham. So that's how I ended up at Fordham. And then And then my first year I did
Wow.
well. Yeah. First year I did well at freshman year, and then we had that magical sophomore year.
I know I'm gonna talk about that, but now that it's so many years later, how much money did you get paid to come to Fordham? Because now we can let the cat out of the bag.
Well, I think if the NCAA ever
It's a joke. It's a
no, I got
joke.
an answer, but I got an answer. If the
Okay.
NCAA ever investigated Fordham, it'd probably be the first school ever have to call up the players because they owe us.
Had you ever played in the gym before coming to college at Fordham?
Actually, the high school, CHSA high school playoffs, my senior year in high school were there, so I did play there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I met Ed Conlon.
And your first time on campus as an undergraduate, what do you remember?
I remember just trying to figure out what it was about.
Uh-huh.
I was going to be living on the place where I went to school. And I had a room, and I had Bart Reuter, which is my roommate. And we had to figure all of that out together.
Where do you live?
Martyrs D House.
In D House.
D House, yeah.
And I read in preparing for our interview that some guy named Denzel Washington.
Oh yeah, Denzel was with us. Of course.
Was a housemate at D House. Whatever happened to that guy?
I don't know. I don't know. Last I saw, he was somewhere in Hollywood. I don't know what he was doing.
Oh, really?
Out there.
Okay. Yeah.
It was funny. A bunch of us were on a little texting this morning. Myself, Darryl Brown, Earl Lightbourne, just being grateful that we're all at Fordham at the same time as African-American males, helping each other get through it. Mm. It was it just came out the blue because Bill Russell died, and we were just talking about some of the great people during our era, and we were just talking about how great it was that we were all there together to sort of help each other usher through our years at Fordham.
Were there any difficult times? Not
really. No, Fordham. I go and one of the guys said in the text stream that we have to give Fordham an assist for that because it's fairly open. I didn't run into any. I didn't run into any craziness at the school at all. The only thing that I heard this from Digger when he spoke once was that when we went to the University of Florida, we did that Florida tour my sophomore year, Miami and University of Florida. He was worried about us being down there. Mm. With the black students, because myself, Maine, and Charlie.
So freshmen, back in the time in which the Earth's crust was still cooling, freshmen were not allowed to play varsity. You go out on the freshman team and average 27.8 points per game, and you make it look easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was easy for me. I don't know why, but that I just flowed with the college game pretty well. My game and the college game just fit. Mm. I was a jump shooter, so I knew where those little spots in the zones were. You had to find those little spots in the zones, and if you know where the spots were, you know where the shots were, then you just had to make the shots.
Was a college game for you easy? I can't believe I'm asking this question. Was the college game easier for you than the high school game?
I think the way I was defended in high school made the college game, and my high school coach made the college game a lot easier for me because I basically saw the same defenses in college that I saw in high school, but I knew how to work with them, work against them.
So you're lighting it up as a freshman. Meanwhile, the varsity goes 10-15, and Ed Conlon leaves the school as head coach and is replaced by a virtual unknown named Digger Phelps. Correct. Were you surprised about the coaching change, and what did you know about Digger?
I knew nothing about Digger, and the first time I met him I was late for the first meeting.
Oh, nice going. Good first impression.
Yeah, because it was, it's October, early October. And as you know, as these kids, they don't know, there was a line for your books. And your books didn't come, your books came in at a certain period. And you had to make sure you were on that line and got it before the other classes got it.
Right.
So that's where I was. I was online waiting. And when I finally got the book, of course, Clifford, my father, could care less about Digger Phelps. So I got there, I got the books, I got to the meeting late. And I told him where I was, and he said, "Don't be late for practice or to a meeting again." I said, "I won't," and I
And
wasn't.
you weren't, right?
No, but there was no. There was. It's funny because the thought of being on time for the meeting versus not getting my books, as you know, in those days, you don't get the books, you're done.
Right, right,
You know?
right.
So that was my
So
first meeting with him, and
Uh-huh.
that was my first meeting with Digger. One of the great things about Digger Phelps that I didn't know at the time was that we started practicing October 15th. We didn't have an offense till November 1st because he didn't know what anybody could do. So that
Uh-huh.
offense people saw that made us was geared to everyone's strengths. That's what
Mhm.
made that team so good. Most of the stuff we ran was to everyone's strength.
So you average 15 points per game on a team that would go 26-3 with
Right.
only one player, 6'5" or taller, and you rank as high as 7th in the nation. At what point, this is after the team had been 10-15 the year
Right.
before with a different
Right.
coach. At what point in time did you begin to think this is a magic carpet ride?
Okay, so the season started, we were 3-0, had all home games. And then, didn't seem like it was that big a deal. We won games. And then we went up to the Rochester Classic, Christmas.
Mhm.
So we won those two games, won the tournament. So we were 5-0 heading to Florida. So we came back on campus, obviously, no Christmas time, no one's on the campus, but the players working out and stuff. Went home for the day or two for Christmas and then came back. And then we go to Florida. So we go to Florida and we win at University of Florida and the University of Miami. Now, it's not like the days today where everything is online and the internet. So we really didn't know what was going on back in New York.
Mhm.
So we came back to play Syracuse. So we're 7-0. We came back to play Syracuse. And it's funny because, when you come out the dorms, you can walk right past where the barbershop is and go downstairs. So I see kind of a trickle of a line outside. I said, now my thinking is, I guess they didn't open up yet. I didn't think it was people. There was a long line. So then you go downstairs and then you hear the noise. You hear this noise. I said, wow, it sounds like there's a lot of people upstairs. When we go upstairs, it was bedlam. It was
Right.
people everywhere. It was like, and then 5 minutes into the game, we were up like 22-2.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just over quickly.
And if my memory serves correctly, wasn't there a guy named Bill Smith who was a 7-footer?
Bill Smith, and they had the guard. What's the guard's name? Dennis Duval.
And they had Dennis Duval, and
Yes.
you're blowing him out of the
Over
Roselle gym.
quickly. So it was over quickly, very quickly. And then that started it. As I tell people when I go to the games now, where the cheerleaders are cheering, they couldn't cheer then because they were selling those seats. There were 3 rows on the floor, if you remember. There were 3 rows on the floor. So when you had to take the ball out of bounds, you had to go over people's feet because they were in the way. That's how many people were in the arena.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're now capturing the hearts of the New York media. You're on the back pages of the tabloids.
Right.
And everybody is coming to understand that Fordham University has this really special team.
Well, one of the guys said when we were warming up one day, "Oh, that's what the press table's for. There's finally some press over there." Yeah, that was just a magical year. Good guys, good camaraderie. We went out on the court expecting to win every game.
And pretty much you do. And
all of a sudden, yeah. All of a sudden, it just came together. It didn't matter if we were home. But we won a lot of games on the road. We went up to UMass and beat Julius Erving's team up there at UMass.
Right.
That was the great story written by, what's the author name? He wrote an article about us in talking about David and Goliath. His name will come to me in a minute. But yeah, that was the game that was written about by him.
For those of us that were there, we will forever remember 2 consecutive Thursday nights in Madison Square Garden. The first of which was against Notre Dame. And the final score was Fordham 94, Notre Dame 88. They were nationally ranked. You were nationally ranked. Ladies and gentlemen, 19,500 people inside Madison Square Garden, and there's no Knicks. It's the Fordham Rams. Tell us about that night.
Well, one of the funniest things about the night, first of all you people who are now involved in the new world, we went to the game by cars, personal cars. We didn't have a team bus. Let's put it all into context. We didn't have a team bus. We were in cars and we had the radio on. And on the radio, Howard Cosell was interviewing Johnny D, the Notre Dame coach. And he says, Johnny, New York knows you're going to win. Tell us by how much so we don't have to have any expense. All the Fordham talk about this Jesuit school from the Bronx. And Johnny D said, well, I've watched them on video. They're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. I don't know where you think that we can just walk in and just beat them, but it's going to be a tough game. And we remembered that we all were laughing, but then we had to figure out where we're going to park the car to make sure we could get into the arena on time.
So there was a flotilla of cars with the whole team in those cars coming down from the Bronx to Madison Square Garden.
Right. And in that daytime, in the day, my mother called. My mother and father had never been to a game. I get a call in the dorm, you know, that the dorm, the one phone in the middle. And and the guy says, Kenny, it's your mother. I said, my mother? My mother never calls me. So my mother says to me, she said, do you have tickets for me at the game? I said, what happened?
Wow.
I said, what happened? So she says to me, she said, well, I'm at work and I hear these guys talking about a basketball game tonight. I hear them say Fordham and I hear them say Ken Charles. So I walked over to them and I asked them, do you know my son? So the guy said, your son? No, we're just talking about basketball. She said, well, Ken Charles is Fordham. That's my son. She said, the guy looked at it and said, the Ken Charles is playing in the game tonight is your son. She said, yeah. And you're not going to the game? She said, I didn't even know there was a game because she didn't. She said, no, that wasn't their life. Their life was work, home, and Kenny tell us about what games he played in. So they showed up at the game. So, and actually Bill Bradley gave me the seats that I put my mother and father in.
How did that happen?
Well, what happened was he heard me talking to someone. I said, I'm trying to get my mother some good seats. And I went into the locker room because it was time for me to get dressed. So there was a knock on the locker room and said, Bill Bradley sent you.
The Knicks were there?
Yeah, the Knicks were there to watch the game, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So Bill Bradley sent you, there were brown seats. And the brown, as you know, the garden is right behind the bench.
Right.
So I put my mother there. So we come out to warm up. God, Lord Jesus, I forget like this one. So my mother's sitting there in almost it wasn't, if there's possible to have a sitting supine position, that's what she was in. And she was, right. So I would come out and I'm looking at her. I said, Mom, I said, Mom, please don't cry. But she was looking at me. She's never seen that Kenny. She had never seen the game face ready to play Kenny. I said, Mom, I'm okay. I said, this is what I do. Please don't cry.
This is the first time your parents have seen you play live.
Fordham game, the Fordham Notre Dame game.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. And she's stoic.
She's like ready to put me into her bosom and protect me from the world.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of course, you got to realize they're from the Caribbean.
Right. And all they do is work.
Most white people they ever seen in their life, to be honest. And their son is out there. And my mother gave me the look of, I don't even know what you're doing out there.
Uh-huh.
But she didn't know that part of my life, really.
Uh-huh.
So, but at one time I looked over there and she was like, another time I looked over there, she was standing up with the crowd. Yeah.
How emotional was that for you?
Touching. Thankfully, the game started soon, so I couldn't have a time to get into it.
And then a week later, I can remember the line from the ticket booth in the lobby of the gym there was a line that snaked out and underneath the stands all the way to the other end of the gym, because the following Thursday night at Madison Square Garden, Fordham's making a return engagement against Marquette, another nationally ranked team. And here we are again, 19,500 people, every seat taken. Expectations are greater because you've beaten Notre Dame. You're having this magical season. Tell us about the Marquette game, which they win in overtime,
yes.
85-80.
Oh, what a great night that was for me for New York at Fordham, and just being there, because we played hard. We gave them everything we had, and I think the difference in the game was just Jones was 6'11", and he was a good 6'11". We played against 6'11" guys that weren't as good as he was. That's why he became a #1 pick. But he was the difference, and it took overtime for that difference to wear us down, because we were playing. We were ready to play. You know, we were so used to winning. We were so used to playing well that we were not worried about performing, about getting blown out or anything like that. We were going to play the press, play the trap, make our shots, and get back. And that's what we did. That's what we did. What a great game. It was so much tension in there. I remember the headline of the Daily News, Fordham in 1905. And that's what it was. And it was just, I think we were calmer than the people in the stands. But it was just a great, just thinking about it just brings back nice, warm memories. What a great night that was.
And Digger played to the strengths of his players as coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have, when they zoned, it was my time. It was my time to start. Get the shots to Kenny. He'll get to the spots, get to the right spots. When he went man to man, we went to Charlie. And we were always looking for the next guy who was open, though. We were a team that whoever was open took the shot. And all the guys on the court, Burek, Maynard, Bart, could make shots. And we supported each other, man.
The season concludes, and Fordham's basketball team is one with New York. And you qualify for a much smaller NCAA tournament. And after a prelim, you've got to play Villanova. And this is in the Eastern Regional semifinals. Tell us about that game. And this is a very unusual school that you're playing, in the sense that they only dress 9 players.
And I had the flu that day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just probably as I said, in my entire basketball career, it's probably the only game I wish I could play over. But I just had nothing. I just had no energy. I had no energy at all to run. I barely had energy to go back and forth. I didn't, I'm sick when I don't have energy to score.
But there was not even a thought that you were going to sit it out.
No,
the flu.
not at all. No, I was going to give it what I had. And as I reflect on the game and said, what we missed was what I was doing.
Are you the difference?
What we missed was my contribution.
Right. And had you been healthy and contributing, do you take out Villanova?
Yeah, I think so.
And what really made this even more aggravating for those who came to love your basketball team was that Villanova winds up having Kate their title because Howard Porter, their best player, had signed a professional contract
already
with an agent.
Right. Exactly.
So then after that, there is a consolation game. It's for
and I'm healthy that
third
day.
place. You all right? And you're healthy, you're back, and you're contributing, and they're playing the University of South Carolina, and they've got players that, like yourself, are going to go on to the NBA.
Right. Yeah, we beat them
100-90.
Yeah, we beat them, and that made my Thursday night worse. That Saturday game made my being sick 2 nights before just worse for me. That's all I thought of on the way back home. It was out of my control. And when I got back to the doors, my friend said, "What happened to you Thursday night?" I said, I had the flu. I couldn't move. We said, we were looking, there's something going on with him. I couldn't run. I had that phlegm in my mouth. It was the only game I wish I could I could play over.
The season is over, and there are openings at major colleges, at Penn, at Boston College, at Notre Dame. Digger Phelps leaves Fordham. Tell us your memories of when you first heard that there were rumors that he might be going, and that in fact he was going to go because he said it was a lifelong dream of his to coach at Notre Dame. Tell us your story.
Well, the dream came after we were 26-3, I'm sure. I'm sure there was no dream before we were 26-3. That's come on, okay. But you know, it's funny, when I first heard it, I just thought it was a rumor. I didn't think you would, be honest with you. I don't care what the size of the schools were. I didn't think you could leave New York City for South Bend, Indiana. I just don't know how because whatever you could create, you think you can be big in Notre Dame because of the lifetime, whatever, but you'd be bigger and better to me at Fordham. But so I never really took it seriously until they said he was gone. I never took it seriously. I really didn't think that he would go, but he did.
So for the 1 year that you're with him, you average 15 points, and then stardom awaits as you just get better and better and better. What was your best game, do you think, playing for Fordham?
My sophomore year, the game at UMass. The game at UMass against Julius and UMass up there. I think that was when I did I think that game I did everything well. I passed the ball well. I made good shots. I made shots all throughout the game. I made free throws, and I made a couple of shots down the stretch to put the game away.
What was your greatest moment inside the Rose Hill Gymnasium?
When they retired my number.
Better than any game you played.
Better than any game. Better than any game. Better than any. I mean, you know, it's funny because it was just a great place for me, man. I have no second thoughts, recriminate. I don't have anything negative to say about my 4 years at Fordham. I really don't. What else? I ended up in the NBA. I graduated on time. All the important stuff I took care of.
Speaking about academics, your favorite subject was, and what was your least favorite subject?
Political science was my favorite subject.
Why political science?
Because I always had something to say, damn it.
I was behind you and I had the same major.
That's right. Always had something to say. And my least class was that 3-2 biology, something else requirement.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. God, yeah. Yeah. 2, 2, and 1.
Right.
It was like a zone. It was like a zone. 2, 2, and 1.
Right. Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah.
The thing that I really appreciated about Fordham too was that, there were some teachers who were into sports and some weren't. And the ones who weren't would tell you, just bring us a schedule when you guys are on the road. When you're not on the road, I expect you to be at class. And that helped me. I didn't say, oh man, that helped me get up and go to class because, that's what we were there for, in all honesty, and the dorms were good. And every one of us had that same goal. We have to graduate to legitimize our 4 years at school. We're having fun. I saw the Jeter quote the other day. He said, I had a great time, but the work came first. And I think that's correct. The work has to come first. And the work is for when you're in undergraduate school to make sure you graduate. There's just no reason not to, other than laziness, because, when you're in college, there's a lot of free time. There's a lot of time to study and still have a good time.
Favorite building on campus and a professor who may have inspired you and made a lasting impression?
Keating Hall. I think his last name was Camus. He was my political science teacher. It was the best C I ever got. It really was. He took no shorts. He didn't want to hit. He said, look, this is what I expect. So and so and so. He said, the best thing I can do for you is give you an extra day for paper if you guys went somewhere. And and I didn't do enough. He didn't think I did enough to get a B plus. He said, I'll give you a C and you don't have to turn in any more papers. I said, great. There was one paper left.
All right, now I got to roll out the story that I have treasured for years.
Right.
That we have to tell the Fordham community now.
Right.
And you were just talking about the importance of staying in school and getting your degree on time.
Right.
Okay. Here's the story that I will never forget. You and I are together at a charity bowling tournament.
Before you say that, Ed, I want to just tell people we are the greatest of friends for years.
Yes, we are.
Go ahead.
Very sweet of you to say that. So you and I are together at a charity bowling tournament in Yonkers. They've invited all these celebrities and me. You tell the story of being invited to an all-star game
In Hawaii.
back then, right? That they used to have these all-star games. And all these All-Americans are there, and you're sitting in the locker room getting dressed, and they're boasting about what they received as entitlements to go to their schools. Tell the story. I'm not going to give away the punchline.
Not only to go to their schools, but the amount of money in envelopes after each game.
Right.
So, they're going back and forth, and I obviously have no input in this part of the discussion at all, because there was nothing in the envelope. So one of them turned to me and said, well, so what did they give you? What are they going to give you at Fordham? Or have they ever given you anything? I said, I'll get a diploma.
Yes. Yes. Good. That's exactly the punchline.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What do they give out at Fordham? Diplomas.
Yeah. I don't have any problems with that, And we were all the guys, we were proud to graduate. We really were.
Mm-hmm.
We really were. Because we put in the work, we practiced hard, we played hard, and that was like our reward to ourselves and our parents.
Well, and those of us who followed you and adored your play on the court, we were so impressed by the fact that you all stayed and you all graduated on time.
And we supported each other in that too. We didn't want anyone to fall by the wayside and change their mind or let outside forces get you not to graduate.
So speaking of graduation, what do you remember about graduation day and the commencement speech?
Finally. That's what I remember. Finally. I also remember my dad walking around like he was the king of the world.
Oh, I was going to say they must have been out of their minds, the two of them.
Yeah, like king of the world. They never, my father never been on the campus. His son has been in the school for 4 years. He's never been on the campus.
Really? The first day he showed up was for graduation?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. What do you do for a living? And what did your mom do?
Dad was an orderly and my mother was a seamstress.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But the day that they showed up for graduation, boy, their feet weren't touching the ground.
Oh, not at all. I looked at my father's face. I said, I'm glad I'm graduating. He was just so happy.
Wow.
He was so happy, yeah.
And then after graduation, you went on to obtain a law degree.
Yes, I did that after the NBA. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, really. There were a lot of options out there. I chose that one. But after a while, I realized I wanted to do some other stuff. So I did. I ran a minor league basketball team for about 4 years, 5 or 6 years. Ran the Brooklyn Kings, and doing that, I ended up now I'm administrating the city. I'm an advisor to one of the city deputy commissioners. Life's good. I don't have any complaints, man. We've done well.
You said this, quote, I wouldn't trade Brooklyn Prep and Fordham for anything in the world. The Jesuits brainwashed me, and I was brainwashed by the best.
Yes,
expand on that.
Well, it's you don't realize it at the time, but your thoughts patterns on how you want to live are being developed. You just really don't. The Jesuits don't beat you over the head with it. They just guide you into challenge everything, challenge yourself, and then see what happens at the end. So I challenged myself in high school. I remember I walked into my high school, there was just 12 blacks there. Just 12 blacks in my high school, and I wouldn't trade it. And Fordham, I wouldn't trade. It was percentage probably just about the same. I wouldn't trade that either, because one of the things that happens sometimes is that your drive to be good to yourself keeps you away from the outside noise. The noise of don't do this, don't do that. And I was in school, we were in school late 60s, early 70s with civil rights movement. So, we were involved in that on a minimal level sometimes. We did a few visits and stuff, but, the goal was to make sure we kept our scholarships. And to keep your scholarship, you needed at least a 2.0, if I remember, that's how it was. And we just kept going, everyone. And it's funny too about Fordham, too, about the guys that were there. Once you get there, with Doc Carter, Denzel, and a lot of the other guys, you just want to make sure we're all in this together, and we all want to push and pull for each other to make sure that you don't get caught up in the dorms and you think the work is too hard. The work is always hard, please. Don't work is too hard, or you don't want to put in the time. But that your parents expect you to graduate. So let's not disappoint them and ourselves.
So sum up your experience at Fordham, and what would you like to say to the Fordham community?
My experience at Fordham was El Perfecto. Remember the line by Al Michaels when the Latino pitcher pitched the perfect game? El Presidente.
Right.
He ended the game, he said, El Presidente, El Perfecto.
Right.
That's
Dennis Martinez in
That's
Los
right.
Angeles for the Montreal Expos against the Dodgers.
He ended the game with El Presidente, El Perfecto. El
Right.
Perfecto is how I feel about Fordham. I don't have any, that's what it is. That's for me, it was a perfect 4 years. We won, there was some other stuff going on, but none of the stuff at Fordham was bigger than Fordham itself. To the Fordham community, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being there for us at all times. The Fordham community has really been good to me, always has been good to me. When I came back for my number to be retired, what really was emotional for me was seeing the people whose faces I saw years ago at all those games and seeing them there. Like Mike Fleming. You see the guys that, they opened the gym in the mornings so we could practice. The guys who worked at the school, the guys who knew some of the players didn't have money for some of the games, who would look the other way and say, go sit over there. I'm gonna walk to this room, go in the gym and go hide in the back till people come out. All those guys that help people just get through the school that you don't even know about. Some guys, there were guys who had trouble paying for books. They give them a little discount here and there. All those people, so many of them were at my retirement. It was so emotional for me. There was just so many of them that just came to say thank you and came to say hello. And you know who else I thought about? Our trainer, Mike. Our trainer. The trainer that we had, Mr. Wilson.
Jim Wilson.
Yeah.
What a nice man.
Yeah. Whoa, what a super guy.
Yep.
I thought of him. It was just I don't have any negative words. It's just a great man, please. There aren't enough adjectives to describe how good I feel about Fordham.
And did your parents then come to understand who Ken Charles is?
Yes, they did eventually. Oh, by the way, at one point, my father would call me up and ask if we played a game on TV. I didn't play well when I was in Buffalo. He said, "What's happening with your game?" Now he became a critic. He went from dad to critic.
Were there ever moments in your time at Buffalo and in Atlanta playing for two iconic coaches, in Jack Ramsey and Hubie Brown? Was there ever a time when, in the company of Austin Carr with the Cleveland Cavaliers and Jim Jones, with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the guys that you faced on those unforgettable nights in Madison Square Garden as collegians, were there ever any moments where there were conversations about how those nights resonated, I'm presuming, with them as it did with you?
It's all they talked about.
Really?
That's all they talked about. There was a night when they were on the same team and we were somewhere, we were out together, and they kept saying God. And Dean and Jones would say, Dean and I talked about that game for 2 years.
Wow.
We talked about that game for 2 years. And Austin Carr would say, I can't believe you beat us. Because remember, that Saturday he scored 61 against UCLA.
Right.
And came, so people were showing up to see how we could do against them, how we could stop them. And if you remember, that was the first night we played zone.
Uh-huh.
That was the first night we played zone defense because Digger was into man-to-man. But we played zone just to try to hold Austin down.
I cannot thank you enough for the opportunity to talk to you, to interview you for this new series, and your friendship means the world to me.
I totally agree with you, Ed. Thank you for having me. To the Fordham community, I love you.
This production's been aided and abetted by Athletic Director Ed Cole, Assistant Athletic Director Kara Field, and the indispensable Joe DeBarry, member of the Sports Information Hall of Fame. As the great Hall of Fame broadcaster Ernie Harwell once said, I think I've done all the damage I can do. Please note, no animals, especially rams, were harmed in the production of this Zoomcast, nor any special effects used. And when all is said and done, there's nothing left to say or do. Thanks so much for putting up with me, and we'll see you next time on Ed Randall's Talking Rams.
Thank you, Ed. Ed and Ed. Thank you. Bye-bye.